After the seniors had our recollection last Friday, I received a message from our student church pastor asking me to give a testimony for today's service because the one who was first assigned for this part won't be able to do it. When I also came back from vacation this second semester, I remember it was Wednesday of that week when I was asked to preach for the coming Sunday because of the same reason, someone backing out from the role. Then I realized that I was only given a part because someone had to decline from the task first, hence me becoming the second option. As if telling me, I'm always the second and never the best. Just kidding. That line, I used to tell that to myself way back my high school years. Always the second, never the best. As an achiever, I was only a shadow of someone else's success and never being on top myself. I graduated only as the class salutatorian, then in senior high as the second honorable mention, but I never got to be the first in place. So I told myself to keep pressing on. There's still college left for me. And so, fast forward, now that I am about to end my college journey, finally, I am no longer someone else's shadow on stage. For my name now won't even be in the list of those students who will graduate with colors. And yes, for this time again, I failed to give my best for my studies, which I myself am fully accountable of. And yes, this is a testimony of a student whose definition of success God has to realign. God echoed Paul's letter in my heart to count this all a loss, to consider these gains as garbage. Instead, I am to gain Christ and be found in Him. It was then I was encouraged to let go of the dream of what could have been. And when I look around, amazingly, I found treasures I have forgotten to value. Relationships. Going through the start of the pandemic was a difficult sale for all of us. I got to be back at home with my parents who were separated from us for 13 years being missionaries abroad. And that's more than half of my life. And when I thought we're just doing good, our hearts still have holded grudges and questions that no one was able to answer. The home was never a place of rest. Raising our voices were our regular meals. And during those times, every day, I got to see a version of me I haven't met yet, mostly negative, that led me to question if I was even called to be a pastora. This affected much of my performance in class, but more so, my commitment in this calling. I can't even forget that one time, while the class was going on with cameras off and mics muted, doors were banging and hearts were screaming behind the screen. In these times, you would just want to lay on the floor, catch your breath, and not knowing what to do with life anymore. But when you are in Christ, as painful as it may be, you will know that God sees. You will feel ashamed to come to Him, but you will know too that He is someone we should not flee from, but run to. I can't thank God enough for all He has done and is yet to do. He sees us through our highest and lowest moments. He sees us as whole even when our hearts are wrenching. And we can trust that nothing that God allowed to happen can defeat His calling and His will for our lives. Even when God knows I would fail Him again and again, He still called me. Even when God knows my failures and brokenness, He still calls me. And it was actually in these heartbreaks that I get to see that there is actually nothing in me that made God call me for this mission. But it is His love and enabling power that can use the imperfect me for His glory. as I end, growing up, one major reason I don't want to be a pastor is because I don't want to become like my parents, from whom I got an understanding that pastors are to leave their children behind for the sake of what they call ministry. It was not the mere idea of my parents leaving that have hurt me through the years, but it was the effect their absence brought in our relationship with one another. Yet it always amazes me whenever I realize how God allowed me to go through such pain of being left behind in order to prepare me for the greater calling He has set for me. That one thing I used to hate so much sets the direction now into how I will be spending the rest of my life: ministry. In the end, it was only a momentary pain for a lifetime joy of committing my life for Jesus. Truly, I have experienced God's redeeming power as how He had turned my miserable life into something that can be useful for the expansion of His kingdom. Looking back to my 5-year stay in this institution, there were countless times I have failed Him, and I still do, oftentimes leading me to become discouraged, exhausted, and tempted to give up. Yet how vast God's love really is that we cannot fathom. His sovereignty, no one can measure. When I thought I am going nowhere, He sees great future of mine ahead. So, to the graduating students of this school year, take heart and let us fret not. Nothing is out of God's control. Just as how Christ has finished completely His redemption of the world, our days are also laid down already in His hands. It is finished. It is certain. Our future is to be in His presence. We await our King that is coming, and to be faithful until then is our calling. May He find us true. To God be the glory.